welcome to the MapMakers online event. My name is Hans-Peter and I'm one of the co-founder of this idea. During the COVID-19 time, our non-profit organization registered in Germany met, as probably most of us in this world in this time. We found out that the communication we had and the way we described what we feel during this time showed somehow a profound way of an emerging future. And we thought this is so important to document it and make it open for the public. A place where you and me and all of us can share what is on our heart, on our mind, and what we might feel how the future should occur. Kind of building a bridge to a new world, to a dream we might have in our heart. So, I'd like to invite you to follow us on the YouTube channel. Get in touch with us if you're interested and also like to support us. You will find an email address at the end of this clip. So, hello, welcome and enjoy the today's event. Bye-bye.
Hey, so hello everybody. Hello Soundarya. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you in this setting since we know you from you were about, I guess it was about 10 years old. And there is
Betty, we can hardly hear you.
you
Yeah.
can hardly hear me. Okay. How is it now?
Yeah, much
A
better.
bit better, yeah.
Okay. So we needed to move a little bit here. Okay. So anyway, we wanted to give Soundarya to have some certainty about the technical thing, and now we have it over here. It's really beautiful. So, Welt, you hear me good enough now? Everyone. Okay. So I just want to briefly say who is on the screen here. So Soundarya, you have an idea. So on my left, it's Friedrich and Gisela. Friedrich, you know, from last year. And if you wave, so she always knows whom I'm talking about. And that's Gisela. They are married, so we know them from Alea for 7-8 years by now. And then we have Hans-Jürgen Columbus. You need to wave now. Okay. So he is from the very beginning, very, very beginning of Auroville, a lover of Auroville, and has been there many, many times and has contributed a whole lot to Auroville and to the music. I always remember when Sunil is playing, I always think about you because you contributed to the organ. So that's very nice. Yes, oh, you bought it. I don't know, at least a big part of you. Then we have Bettina and Georg. If you wave again, right? They're living in Ireland, on a beautiful piece of land. And yep, we know them now 3 years or so, something like that. Then
we know him forever.
We know them forever.
For
yes.
all lifetimes.
Yes, yes. And then we have Markus. We know him also a few years. So you came back to us. You have been a professional, or you're still a professional interviewer and movie maker. And so we will see how life is catching you on this part of life again. Then we have Pia. She was here just 2 weeks ago. We had a beautiful weekend together. And Michael, it's not her here right now. He's coming later.
In the shower, I think.
They also came to us a few years ago because of the Alea platform, our Alea society we founded. And then we have Monica, and Soundarya remembers her maybe.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask.
At your mom's, at your place actually, and we saw your
Long
beautiful
back.
movie on your dance.
Hello,
in
Monica.
this little room when you enter your house. So we were sitting there watching it, and your mom had cooked for us. So, well, and then we have your dad, you know very well. So we don't see him, but he is invisible with us. And then we have Karen here, and you know Karen very well. Or her webcam is not working. So
It's not
she's going to back.
working, but I'm here.
Okay, hi Karen.
Hi.
Okay. So I also want to give from my side a few words why we invited Soundarya. I hope, Columbus, it's good enough, my German English? Okay, okay. So when we were in Auroville the very first time, and Hans-Peter has taken us there, as means me, Karen, and Kezia, our two daughters, as well as some friends, because we always love to take friends along and have a nice group around us. And Hans-Peter booked Soundarya's uncle, Raman. So who is happened to be an architect. So that was such a nice way. We got to know Auroville, and he was touring with us. And then we took a trip to Tiruvannamalai, and there was Soundarya with us and Guna, her mom. And then she was dancing in one of these very ancient temples, and we just fell in love with Soundarya and her family. So the love never stopped. So we're still around, and every time we come to Auroville, hi, we see you. Hi, hi, hi. How nice to see you. Okay, these are Soundarya's parents. Very beautiful. Oh, so happy to see you. Great. Yeah, we fell in love with all of your family. Yes, yes, we did. So every time I come to Auroville, or also when Hans-Peter comes, I was there more often in the last years. So of course we have to meet our family there. And that's the family we see right now here, including Kamala and Rama. And I always love to meet Soundarya, because she is such an inspiration for me. Whatever, when she is sharing something, it's coming out of so much authenticity, and always trying to understand life, really understand it, and not just, partying around. I guess you also have party time. I hope so. But there is always something deep in it. And when we were setting up this platform now for our Alea events, I thought we have to get Soundarya. She's a child. She's not a child anymore, but a child of Auroville, and she carries in herself the new future. So this is why I really, I'm so excited now to have you here, Sonia. And we got to know you via dancing. This was always something we loved very much. And then you decided to go for architecture study. So now I would just give it to you, Sonia, and you can share whatever you want to share about your life's paths, in the direction, of course, with the subject we're having opened today. And I have some questions here. I listened to the YouTube speech you gave, so I think we're going to have a just beautiful family time now. And you keep going, and later on there will be time of asking your question. Okay.
Thank you so much, Betty and Hans-Peter. I'm more than happy, of course, to be here right now with family and extended family, and to be sharing some insights and glimpses of my life to you people. So thank you. I think I'll start by, actually, I'll probably be focusing on the idea of the body in space throughout the certain glimpses that I give, that I had through my journey. So the very first one would be, of course, the first time I stepped out of Oroville. I was in Oroville, brought up in Oroville all my life, and the very step I had in my life to step outside was for university. So, of course, there itself, there was a huge cultural shock and, like, of course, a lot of homesickness and things like that, and having to adapt myself to this new environment. And to be specific, there was this one exercise that sort of was probably my first experience to start imagining this body in space aspect in architecture. Like, of course, I did learn all the conventions and standards and things like that through the academics. But in my second semester, we had this one exercise that I also shared with Betty earlier. I think that was the start point of this entire sharing. Was when there was this exercise where we had to do certain models to explore certain aspects, like there was elements or senses and adjectives that we had to sort of narrate through a physical model. So it started out there when I took the element sky, and I had to create a space where if a person is walking through that, how would one experience the sky? How would one sculpt the space such that the revelation of the sky gives that experience to the person? So I think that was the very first time when I had to start imagining how would it be if you know, in terms of scale, in terms of light, in terms of what you see and how it sort of adds on to the experience. And then from there, it got, again, there were iterations when I had to explore again with different emotions and states of mind. So I took peace as an state of mind to explore this, again, experience aspect. And I chose to create, actually look at the duality. So if one were to experience peace, I guess the opposite will also enhance that experience. So through my model, I try to create this chaotic environment that sort of leads at the end towards this very peaceful, very quiet and sudden opening and like space for contemplation. So these were some very initial times when I got introduced to trying to think of how it is for a person, for the body to be in a particular space. And then moving on from that, again in my third year, I had this experience of, we had to document a very old tile factory in India. It's in Mangalore, called the Albuquerque Tile Factory, which was almost 100 years old. And we were drawing it out, and it was during that process that I learned that even the medium that you use and the way you draw sort of expresses the thought process. And usually it happens intuitively and it's mostly an unconscious act. But I think that was that point when I started to have this realization that actually, if you are aware of every single stroke, every single line that you do, in what intention it's being done, or at least when you're done, when you reflect upon the piece of art that you actually do, it gives you an understanding of who you are. So I think here I'll show you that drawing of mine, and I'll share what it was like to you. I hope my screen is visible. Is it visible?
Perfect.
Yes. Okay. So this was the plan. So a plan is basically if you have a building, if you cut it horizontally and then open it up, this is what you see. So we were here for almost 3 days in the same potter studio, and my particular professor sort of told me, like when I was drawing, I wasn't very sure, am I doing the right thing? Am I expressing it in the way they had in mind and things like that? And he just simply said, imagine if I look at this drawing 5 years later, would I be able to see how dusty and how sort of dirty and old it was? Will I be getting that impression that I immediately have to go and wash my hands? So that's the sort of emotion, that's the sort of representation you should get out of your drawing. And then that's it. That's it. He said that and he left, and this is what came out of it. I think every single tool and every single change in texture was sort of just out there. And this was a group work. So there were like 3 people on one drawing sheet, and we're drawing from one side and then adding on to the other. But at the end, it looks as one. So this was one time when it really struck me, like the way you draw actually creates what you want to express at the end. This was on spot. And then when I came back and then I was thinking of it, we were told to keep on drawing. And actually, our team was the only one who chose to continue to draw by hand. Every other group, by this time in the academics, we were told to start using softwares and things like that. I do appreciate the digital tools that we have, but I personally love drawing and using my hands to explore. So this was the second drawing that I did when I came back and did this out of memory. But it was life-changing because the way this was perceived by my classmates and by my other professors was fantastic. And so this was another learning. And I think it comes out of also this haptic memory of what you felt when you were there and how that gets translated into like material out drawing. So yes, this is one. And then coming to a very, very important phase in my life so far was during my internship in Ahmedabad. So part of the academic course, you have to do a year of training outside in an office, in a studio, where you get to learn the actual practicalities and office managing skills and things like that. So I was in Ahmedabad, which is in Gujarat, a little north towards India. And so there, I was interning with Professor B.V. Doshi. He's an architect. He is one of the pioneer architects also. And he always was, and now, of course, will be forever inspiration to me. Because not only does he look at architecture as a profession, but he considers it as like an extension of his life. So he's living the passion and not just looking at it as like work or anything. So when he got one of his awards, I think the first time we met him as a group, he was talking to us, and the place I was working in is called Sangat. So I won't show any pictures of it. I think towards the end, maybe we can see them together. But Sangat is a beautifully built space, and it's probably, he also considers that project very close to his heart, because he's put so much of his learnings and insights and experience into that one project. So when he always tries to talk to students and people, he always refers back to Sangat as an example. And at the end of the day, I was just so filled with emotions and inspired by the way he talked about it that I had to sort of put it out. I had to put out my thoughts on paper. And I started drawing. This is what I came up with. I can't really label it or name it as a plan, a section, or any particular type of drawing. But this was more just my thought process put down. And it's an amalgamation of all sections and then some views. It's basically the route I take every day inside the building, starting from the ground, and then I see a staircase in perspective, and then suddenly we feel really confined by the lower roof. And then there's this person who makes tea for us. So I say hello to him every morning. So this window sort of strikes and stays in my mind. And then there's this space where there's a sudden flood of light inside. Like the entire stretch is dark, but then a sudden flood of light happens here. And then we're inside this small vault and then bigger vault. and then a particular staircase that sort of always catches my eye before I sit down on my space to work. And I call this drawing as Memories of Sangat. I just do this for myself. I never even thought that any day he would be looking at it. And this was another narrative where it was one that we have from outside. So outside there's this beautiful landscape, and we walk outside and then come in from the roof. So this was that narrative. And so I did these drawings for myself. But there was this day towards the end of my internship when we got the chance to meet him, and we thought, okay, why not make things together and then put it up for him to see. So I just thought, okay, I'll share this drawing since it's so special to me. I put it up, and there were, I don't know, we were 15 students, and then we had all our drawings up in that room. He came inside, he was talking to a person, and I don't know how it still feels magical, but my drawing somehow caught his eye, and he just paused there and he asked me who did that. And of course, me being a little uncertain of how he's reacting to it, I was like, I did it. And then he asked me to explain it. And of course, after explaining the entire process and what I had in mind, he was very happy, very touched, and I could see that extra sparkle in his eyes. And it was probably the most memorable day in my life because he appreciated this diagram, I could call it, and he interpreted it in so many different ways. And he was talking about a 10-minute talk that I gave, he was talking about for an entire hour. So it was absolutely beautiful. And yeah, it's probably one of the very close to my heart memories from my training. There were some other drawings that I did after that, and which I also showed, but these two were very, very special to me. This was again a diagram sort of documenting the different ways that I experienced sitting. So there's the mound where I sit in a certain way. There's a higher sort of plinth that I sit in a certain way, and then different types of chairs. And then one day we also climbed up the roof, and then we're playing around it and things like that. So all of these, I think, comes under, again, the experience of the body in space. What are the different aspects and what are the different sort of physicalities that create that experience, and why are certain memories stronger than others? So I think during this drawing and after, when I look back at it, it's because one is bodily oriented, and the space sort of creates that and offers that experience to the people. So it was certain realizations I had. I kept going after that conversation. I just did more for myself and started exploring the entire journey from the entrance till I go inside. And I was looking at how even aspects like trees and plants and sudden openings and sudden sort of closings create this different thresholds, either through temperature, through light, or through the air, and sort of these senses awakening is what architecture is supposed to do. If it's monotonous, I mean, even if it's monotonous and it has meaning in a certain way, I think it will have an impact on the people that are experiencing that space. So this was another comparison I did of Doshi's building itself. So there were 3 such buildings, and I was just doing this for myself, trying to understand why certain activities happen in a certain place, why they happen elsewhere, why does the environment suddenly get playful at a certain place, and why you feel like just sitting down and quietly like looking at things at another. And actually there are meanings. We probably don't notice them in everyday life, but if we start paying attention to things around us and why we do certain things in certain places and why we have conversations in certain areas and things like that, it all makes sense. It has a lot to do with how we interact with the space around us. So And me being a dancer, I had to try to make this little composition of, again, the entire walk in terms of a small dance piece. So this was, again, just an abstraction of that. Yes, that is probably what I had to share, but I can explain more or we can go back to drawings if anyone would like to say anything.
Oh, thank you very much, Sonia. I'm just, when you showed
I can't hear you, Betty.
Okay. Uh-huh. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I think it just, for me, it just came across the spirit behind the architecture, you know, what it's life, what is, you know, the what you transport in your words. It's that architecture can be really life-changing for a person, just, you know, in experiencing the building, you know, the way how it is created. And I remember that you said something also in your YouTube clip. So you still hear me good enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
So it's when you showed the first picture here, your first drawing, I could sense I could, you know, like all the dust. It's so beautiful. I've never would have thought about.
I never saw such beautiful.
Could you just unmute maybe yourself while some? Okay. So to just see this, and you know, I could smell how it smells there. So it's really, really beautiful, and to come from this perspective, to do architecture, to build places, it's so touching. So to really include the soul, the spirit of a person going there, it's just marvelous. It's so valuable, it's so important for our future. And I'm just, you reached me, let's put it this way. You reached me with your words, and maybe all the people here now on the platform, you want to share something or ask some question. I had Hans-Peter on my side. You know, he was always nodding his head when you were talking, so you didn't see that, but he was totally with you. So, and I could see his heart opening up by listening to you.
Oh, I'm glad. But yeah, it is a success if you felt the dust and smell and could hear all the pottery stuff here and there. That's great.
Do you, if someone there who wants to ask or share something with Soundarya? Soundarya?
Soundarya, I would like to ask if you guys go and have a customer and you start talking to them for building a house for a private person or a company or whatever. Do you go straight, or not straight away, but do you ask those questions? How do you want to feel there? What emotions do you want to have? Not going just straight square feet and how many windows and how many stories, but do you go into this feeling things and that the people get touched somewhere else? Is that something you ask pretty much at the beginning as well?
Okay, so I'm actually not done with my schooling yet. I'm in my final year of studies. So I haven't really had the experience of talking to clients or working on a project yet. But I do intend to keep it in the back of my mind that it's not all about the things you're saying. Like, of course, it's not the square feet and whatever material and things like that, but it will definitely be one of the initial conversations to ask what they want out of that space. Let it be a house or a workspace or anything for that matter. What is it that they would like to see or experience at the end of it? Like, what are they trying to express through it, or what do they want to create out of it for themselves? And if it involves other people, I'll definitely ask and converse about that. Because at the end, that's what is going to make a certain space what it is and have certain meaning. Otherwise, everything becomes the same, I guess. The same building can be a house, the same building can be an office or a shop or anything. If it's not particular or if it doesn't respond to certain aspects of human needs or, let's say, the context, then no. So definitely it is very, very important, at least to me.
Like your professor, is he talking about that, how he approaches those things to his customers?
Yes, definitely. One of my professor, he's actually very close to me, Kartikeya Chaya. So the first drawing that I showed was in his studio. So he was the one who's like a constant guide and a constant person who doesn't let me go into the usual conventions, or even if I am feeling insecure, he makes sure that it's normal and it's very, very, in fact, the right way to go about things. But the people I interned with, both Nilkan Chaya and Professor Doshi, both of them have shared experiences where they involve communities while working, and they involve the people there, even the clients, to sort of interact. And it's not a one-way conversation. It's not me telling what I want to do or what I want to create out of the project you have in mind, but rather working together. That's how it's actually supposed to be. But now it seems as if it's the like, how to say, special or rare thing to happen. So yeah, they have mentioned. There's this example, you can maybe check it out, called Khamir Craft Park, which is in Bhuj in Rajasthan in India, where they had created this park, crafts park, to sort of involve traditional craftsmen and people from that region to sort of exhibit their skills and work together as a community. And while designing that space itself, it was done in a group. So it wasn't only the architect deciding what to do, but the people, and asking them what they want, asking them how they would like it. And it was a constant to and fro. So yes, I have seen some people working like that.
Great. That's a good way to do it. Because I had the experience once we worked with an architect with a little project in our house. I had really a hard time to get my feelings through. He had his idea and he wanted to get it through no matter what. And basically it was very hard to get even part of my things being done. Normally it looked completely different, and that's not the way. It looks nice what he did, but it's not what I would have done if I would have more say. Let's put it.
Yes.
And
this is a big issue, actually.
Yeah, so it's good that you do that. Good to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, are there some other questions or some sharing?
Hi.
Hello.
I worked and trained as an architect, and what Pia said, I was trained to be the one who decides how the clients later live in the house. And I learned through the years to depart from that and to come in my own way to what you are describing. Even so, you come to it in a different way. It's encouraging to see that you as a young person, and maybe that's to do with India as well, that you approach life in a different way. but it's very encouraging to see that I'm not alone in this world who approaches architecture in a different way. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
inspiring. Thank you.
You're definitely not alone. Don't worry.
And I just wanted to add that I normally don't understand plans at all. If I see a plan, I don't understand it, I don't get it, and I don't know where's what. And to see, I thought it was so delightful to see how you had not so much the first plan, I still didn't fully understand or get it, but the other plans, you walk through the building and how you sit or how you could sit or how people feel. I just thought it was enchanting to see those. I felt it was like a fairy tale to walk with you. Very beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank
And for
you.
this day, it's inspiring.
Yes. Thank you, Bettina. Yes, I think most of us had this feeling, or all of us, to just walk with you. And also, it was just a sketch, like a sketch, you could feel you sitting on a chair or walking there, or someone is making the coffee for you. That was really beautiful. Yes. I would like to ask you something. You said on your little video clip on YouTube that there was a moment. This was also changing your way of looking at architecture, and it had to do with that someone said, I don't know, one of your mentors or teachers or professors, that you had to focus on your strengths and not on what's lacking, something like that. And you said something very profound there, and I would like to read it out, and maybe you can deepen it a little bit. And you said, I realized it has no limits in terms of what I want to express.
Yes, I think I know who this was. This was Kartikeya. The very first drawing that I showed was done in his studio. And he's one of those people who are beyond just teachers or professors. And he's like a very good mentor also to me. And right after doing those drawings and coming back to studio, everyone started working on the computer and started putting out fancy drawings and whatnot. And I felt like as if I'm missing out. I was starting to get anxious and afraid and left behind. So I went up to him and asked him, like, I should start learning these. Can you help me? He said, why? Why do you want to do that? I said, because I don't know, maybe it's not enough. I don't have enough to become what I inspire or aspire to be. And that's where he told me actually that this is your strength and you're doing good at expressing what you want to through this medium. You should focus on that. Like, if that's your strength, then focus on it. If you would like to learn something else for the sake of learning, that's different. But if you think this is a weakness and that's why you want to learn something else, that's not the way to go about it. And I guess I needed that reaffirmation at a certain point. But after that, I never ever looked back. And I do learn still a lot of digital tools and things like that, but I still rely on my hand. And definitely that if you do whatever you would like to through your strengths and believe in it, I mean, I guess it'll convey. It doesn't need some fancy gadgets and fancy tools or conventional methods to express how you'd like to. It can be a simple sketch
Yes,
also.
thank you. Very beautiful. Thank you. And there was also something I really enjoyed listening to you. It was when you shared that you had the Sunday meetings where you cooked and where you were reading, about everything about life. And it was in connection with architecture. So
Yeah.
maybe you can also clarify this a little bit. So, because I thought, how beautiful. People come together, want to learn about architecture, and they're sitting and reading a poem, or you're talking about Krishna, or cooking a coffee, or having a nice meal. So observing everything in life. So maybe you can share a little bit about that.
So this was in my first phase of internship when I was interning with Professor Nilkanchaya. He's an architect based in Ahmedabad as well. And his son is actually the person that was my professor. So they're all that family. And so yes, it was something we do. Like every Sunday we have Sunday reading, and basically we all meet up early in the morning, early as in 7 o'clock in the morning, and then he loves cooking. Apart from architecture, he loves cooking, and he makes special bread every Sunday, and he makes jams as well. So sometimes we get lemons or things like that, and then together we peel them and make jam and things like that. And we make Darjeeling tea, which he loves. So it's almost like a ritual. All of us students and other architects, all age people, background people, all kind of people come together, friends, anyone can drop in. It's not restricted to just the office people, but we're always there. So we all gather up, and it's almost like this feeling you get when you meet up with your grandparents and sit eagerly trying to listen and get to like experience their stories and things like that. So he used to read out, and the topics varied from anything. It can be, as she said, poems like T.S. Eliot, and then sometimes it's about music, sometimes it's about cooking, sometimes it's about Tamil literature. It's almost like any book that he just gets, and we start reading from any page, literally that. Sometimes it's very intense that we only read one paragraph and we sort of sit quietly for another half an hour and then discuss about it. But anything we read, at the end of it, we try to relate it back to our daily experiences, to the work we do, and to architecture. Even if it's about cooking, if we learn some particular recipe, ingredients, and things like that, then we look back. Okay, what do I do with that in architecture? Yes, we are also involving different materials. We are also creating a recipe together with various different functions, and we are also creating a recipe and a final sort of dish out of it. And how are we looking at it? And of course, every dish cooked by every person will be different, which is how architecture is also. Everyone looking at a certain project or a certain work will see it differently. And that's, I guess, also what makes each person unique. So this is how we sort of relate it back. And as Betty was also saying, sometimes it's even historic myths and legends, and which is sometimes just an eye opener. Sometimes it doesn't even have to relate back. It's just a moment of realization, a new learning. And I'm not sure if I'll use that in architecture, but at least it got me to the place where you have to be a sensible person and be open to learning, and not just restrict yourself, like, okay, only this will take me somewhere and this will not take me somewhere. I mean, I think that's at least what I got out of it, like to be open to learning, and anything for that matter will sort of, if you involve yourself in it, it will somehow reflect in your life someday. Yeah. It was beautiful. Those Sunday readings were just absolutely mind-blowing. Sometimes so intense that you can't do anything for the rest of your day, just have to go back and sit quietly. But it was very, very beautiful.
Thank you. Did some other questions come up for you? Otherwise, I keep going here. Du musst mir die Zeit irgendwie. Okay, then, is there a question? Okay, maybe later. So you said also something, dear one. I hope you're still with me here.
Yeah.
There was a quotation
Fully.
you mentioned on your YouTube, and I think it was like, only the unknown will come when you take a chance. If you are wise,
Wise,
you
you
will
lose
lose
everything.
everything. So how do you relate this to architecture?
Okay, so this stays forever in my heart. This is not my quote actually. It's said by Professor Doshi, and he's written a book called Paths Uncharted. So he says that he's never expected anything that happened in his life, never planned anything that happened in his life. He almost just went with the, you know, forces that sort of took him away. And every happening in his life was because he never expected or never sort of, I mean, of course, it's good to plan out things, but he never said, this is what I'll do for the rest of my life, or this is what I'll only do. And that led him to various blessings or turning points in his life where he kept receiving and kept adapting to new changes in his life. And this I read in a small, tiny little note that was stuck underneath my table. So I found it suddenly because my table, of course, was used by some probably 20 other people in the past. And I saw this and it somehow struck me that's so true. Sometimes we hold on to things that we think um, is what defines life or defines what we want to do. But the minute we don't sort of fix or stagnate at a certain point and let things flow, is probably where change happens. And if we're not afraid of change, I guess it takes us places. I keep it. This is a reminder to me, not something that I succeeded or achieved in life, but just a reminder, because I'm that kind of person who keeps holding on to things and who needs that assurance that this will be fine, that will be fine, and it takes me a while to let changes happen. So it's a reminder for me, and it's a very beautiful one, I think, to allow things to take over and not control anything as such.
It's very fitting for these times we live in right now.
For sure. Absolutely unexpected.
Yes, and something else. So you said we as architects are responsible for the future, for what will happen in that space.
Definitely. Because, okay, how would I explain? For example, someone comes up to me and says, I would like to build a school and you're the architect. Can you start designing something for me? These are certain functions that are need to be there, a playground, a library, classrooms, things like that. And that's it. Maybe the rest is given to me and it's flexible. I decide how that school will be. I decide every moment and time spent in that particular school. Let it be anything, even a single wall that I raise or decide to raise will affect the things that happen around it. And this actually also brings back to what Bettina said, I think. I'm not sure of the name, but he said that it took him a really long time to realize that, come to certain realizations, right? So about the plan, like there were moments when even we were just conventionally drawing, this is a wall, this is a window, and that's it. And not thinking and just simply describing it as this is the kitchen, this is the hall, this is the bedroom, this is the studio. And only after again a professor came up to me and said, don't draw plans, draw spaces, draw the time spent in it, and then you'll see how it sort of evolves. And that's when we started imagining, yes, right, what were I to do if I were in a particular place? What would I see if I were here? What would I do? What different stuff would I do if there's one person, if there are more people? So that's how the imagination sort of expands. And in that way, yes, we are very responsible of what happens in that particular place. If I decide to put a box, that will define certain activities. If I decide to open it up to the trees around it, that will define the space again. So it's sort of all in what we sort of do and how we sensitize to a place. to the needs, to the environment. In terms of that, I think we are quite responsible.
Okay, thank you. So I again ask, someone wants to share something or ask?
Does any of you want to say anything?
I have lots of questions here. I could do that, but I want to give it to you because you're listening to it newly.
Also, okay, I think I'll go. Reminded of what Pia had said a while ago, of how most of the architects actually decide what they want to do and rarely adjust to what the clients want or envision that space to be. I recently attended this studio that is called Alter Ego Poche Studios. So it was a set of people who came together and said, you know what, this is what technically architects always do. So let's sort of change that mindset and create this transformation. And they set up an almost like a 1 month studio where anyone was allowed to join, not just architects, not designers. There were environmentalists, there were musicians, there were biologists, all kind of different people interested in all kind of different fields. And we all came together and we had sort of exercises and processes. But the final stage of design actually it was ultimately an architecture studio, but it was involving these different people and to see and to also sensitize ourselves to work with different people. So, and also to lose this ego as such that a work is mine or I designed it, and the self thing had to be sort of given away. And it did happen because the very last stage was in 4 processes. The first one was there were 6 teams. So each team had to do one stage and then pass it on to the next. So first stage was deciding the core values for the site. So we were just given a site and then we said we have to decide core values that we will keep up while designing. So, and then the second stage was imagining ourselves as the users. And my team, for example, didn't just decide, okay, we're the architects, we're going to design. For example, I took the earthworm and said, okay, what would an earthworm do to the site? What would an earthworm do to the land? And there was another person who said, I'll be a potter. How would I sculpt this land in a certain way? And then with that work, again, we shifted it to the next team. So it kept moving like that. So the final piece of work that we got from the previous team, we worked with it and created a project out of it. So there was this constant surprise as to what we would receive and how we would work with that. But there was this respect and also understanding. And it was an act of compassion more than an act of self-involvement in it. And even at the end, we could not call it like, oh, this is our project or this is my project, but it was ours because the work was like at 4 stages at various places in the teams. And I think this was absolutely beautiful because at the end, that's how it's supposed to work. If it's a collective process, I'm not saying I don't enjoy individually working. I think I work great alone because I have my space and my time to work. But this was one experience where it absolutely opened my eye as to how to listen to other people, how to respect what they did and not erase it and work over it, but rather work with what we get. So it was an absolutely beautiful experience.
Good, thank you. What comes very clearly out of what you just shared now is that the physical manifestation, which is shown in architecture, and how you approach it and people around you and your professor, is that you build a future together, because this is future you just shared, and you are living in Auroville. It's a city of the future. So it's really beautifully shared now what future and physical manifestation of the future means when it comes to architecture. Very beautiful. Thank you. So
Hopefully it happens.
Who wants to ask this beautiful young future? Pardon? Yeah, okay. Ask, yeah, question, but not just question. Hans-Peter just mentioned also, you can just share something or make some comments or something, you know, what's happening in you while you listen to what Soundarya is sharing. Doesn't have to be questions. Friedrich.
Yes. Also, one of my ideas of future architecture is the architecture itself should serve for mankind and not for the fame of the architect. That is what also Pia says, that the architect has a higher intention of doing things like architecture should reconnect us to nature, not separate us from nature. Architecture should also watch which materials they use. Sustainability is a big issue for my reasons. All that will create also a sense and a feeling of happiness, at least. Yeah. If I know, I myself would know to live in a zero emission house, which is built with sustainable materials, I feel good because I contribute to the wealth of the whole planet. And this is for me also a very, very important aspect of architecture. So this was not a question, but is that things which, is it a topic also for you, Soundarya?
It is, definitely. I do agree that a lot of people work or create projects for their own identity or fame and mark in history, I'd say. But maybe that was maybe in the modernist time an interesting thing to do. But right now we need to really look at the environment for sure, because it's at crisis. And as like even Hans-Peter was mentioning how in Germany right now it's autumn out of the blue. So of course we need to pay attention to the environment and what's happening and respond. It's our responsibility, not just as an architect, but I think every individual to be aware of things and how we could help contribute to it, for sure.
May I say a last idea? I think the fame for the architecture who brought back the architecture to human scale will be much bigger and much more long-lasting than maybe one or two famous buildings he created somewhere in New York or Abu Dhabi or somewhere. Yeah, I mean that's on the long run. The fame will be much long-lasting when he reconnects us to what we are really are born for.
True. Very true.
Okay, so thank you, Friedrich. We have a little more time left. You know, we want to have a little structure here. So I guess I see you, Pia. I see you. So just
Mark is also, I guess.
Okay, righty. So yeah, shoot, Pia.
Okay, I just recently read something about a person who talked about a dream she had where she was traveling with her spirit guide in some places, and she recalled that the guide told her, look at your cities in the past and in the future, how they look and how they look now. And she looked at it and she saw that in that other dimension where they were traveling, all the buildings were alive. Everything was alive. And where we live now, things and buildings are more or less dead. And that is probably something also a good focus where we could work on to make through imaginations, through feelings, through rituals or whatever, what can be done to get back the life into everything that is, which everything is life, everything is a living being. And we forgot that a little bit, I guess. And I have not the means to say how to rebuild it or to getting it alive again. But that's, I think, would be a good focus to work on.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you, Pia. Markus.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Pia. That was really a very good point, because I realized, and that's why I'm a little bit speechless the whole talk, when I was seeing your drawings, it reminded me on a almost new language. You know, you could see this Chinese, letters and so on, which are kind of calligraphic. But it really had this image of, wow, I see one image, but it's not, a plan. It really includes, the life of the people. It includes, people moving there. You can hear the sounds, you can see the dust, and suddenly it's so much more vivid, I'd call it, right? So this is really something quite interesting, because I'm not looking only into space, I'm looking into time together with space. This is amazing. I mean, this is really mind-blowing for me. So thanks for just somehow inventing that kind of, or bringing that feeling forth inside of me, right? So I was just thinking about, well, I can see a lot of my life and activities in life, maybe with just this new view. It's like a new perspective that you brought into my life, like, well, just change the perspective. I mean, that's my task now, right? And the question I'd love to ask you is, like, living so close to Auroville, how would this influence your life? Do you have any idea about where are these impulses from the future? Betty spoke about the city of the future, right? So can you sense a future, or how would you describe that future in your own words?
Wow, very nice question, actually. Thank you. I'm glad actually you enjoyed it. I think it starts from us as children, actually, how much freedom and flexibility we have to explore by ourselves, and how we're not already restricted at a young age. I think that experience of me being here in Auroville and also engaging with my immediate surrounds sort of maybe unnoticeably sort of had this impact on me right now. But definitely, like, your senses, I see that also in the children, like the generation today. I mean, not as if I'm very old, but I see that happening in the younger generation, where they're so, they've lost certain senses, or they've lost the interest even to do certain things that I may have done as a child, like simply let it be climbing a tree, or like, playing with soil and things like that. And that itself sort of sensitizes you to the different textures and materiality, for that matter. That is what is being lost. It's not that it's something different that's coming up, but it's just more realizing what there is, and not discarding certain aspects of life. So if we just sort of evoke this, or like remind people that, you know, there is more to life than just what you're doing right now, I guess that itself will have a large difference in our future. If people are just a little more aware at a very younger stage in life, because of course our childhood shapes us into the people we are. Education does as well, but the very first memories that we probably don't even remember right now, but sort of got absorbed in our bodies, is definitely influential in the things we do today. Let it be how we interact with nature, how we talk with people, response, everything. So, and it's sad that life not everywhere allows that to happen, but if that were the first step itself, I guess there would be certain changes happening. And that's where I guess
Right.
Orwell also shaped me in some way. As a child, I remember not even looking at a screen, for example. Like I had my first phone when I was graduating from high school, and now kids at like 3, they need a smartphone to like not cry. And I don't know, already there, things have changed, and we just have to. It is difficult, and I'm not saying that we have to detach from the digital technology that's happening, but we could still retain certain things in life, and because if that's not there, then no use having earth for that matter, or living here. We could live in space as well. So I guess it's this awareness and way of educating the children that will make a change.
Wow.
Being an example.
And then there's last question here, because you spoke about body in space. So that's how you somehow started painting. Okay, how is this body moving? How is he behaving? You know, what activities are involved, and so on. And then that's just an experiment. What about space and body?
Wow. Yes.
Just, you know, just a thought.
Wait, I will talk about this. 1 second. Yes, so this reminds me of something I'm doing right now. Actually, I'm trying to study and understand how music or dance, for that matter, is drawing parallels with architecture, because I have studied this and have studied that. So I was looking at it, and I do interact with musicians and ask them questions related to this. And there's this particular time when I interacted with a singer called Bombay Jayashree. And I was asking her, when she sings, does she imagine herself, or does she create a space within her to sort of get to that level where she is and sing and like sort of express in a certain way? And she was talking about this, that when she actually, before she sings, she sort of enters this space within herself where she can actually visualize it. She was explaining this temple in Madurai in South India, where there's that experience of a sudden void, but where she feels the most secure, and it sort of comforts and is like sort of cocoons her completely. And she said this happens within inside, and only when she enters that space can she be in that state of mind where she sings in that certain way. So I do think this is happening for certain people, and probably to us also, but we're not aware of it. That moment was wow. Like, I think that's what you're referring to as well, the space in the
Yes,
body.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Wow, beautiful. Thank you.
You should listen to her telling it. Like, maybe I'm not doing justice to the way she said it. It's even up online. I can send the link to Betty and maybe connect it to you.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
absolutely
beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I think we should just wrap it up right now, because it's getting a little late for some people. I just want to say, so we have Soundarya as a living example of a child of the future, our will, and I'm sure we will go back as soon as we can. We will take people with us as we always do and have the experience and meet you, of course, and your family. So I would just want to wrap it up. I want to say thank you very, very much. Maybe we can have you again another time, maybe with a different subject, but for now we should just complete it. And I just want to say hi.
Dad popping in.
Yeah, how nice. Oh, it's so nice to see you. I'm just thrilled. Okay, yeah. So Karen sagt, it was so nice to hear and see you, Soundarya. Very nice to, I don't read it anymore. Oh, there.
I just want to tell thanks to Betty to conduct this event. It was very beautiful. I come to know many things from Soundarya because she explained more detailedly things here which she was not really doing with that. I knew about all her timing in her internship in Gujarat, but day to day what is happening and so detailed explanation on this Sangat picture. It was very clear to me only today because she took her time to explain everything. So I take this great opportunity to have it so that I also can listen with all of you. And thank you, Betty.
Thank you for sneaking in here. And I know we as parents, we know also, you know, if within a family, you have a certain perspective about family members. So
Yeah.
it's always good to go out and listen to your daughters, you know, to your husband, to your wife. It's always different. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, we come back as soon as we can.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Nice
I
to
just
see
want
you.
to wrap it up a little bit. So we have learned a lot today. I think we can just take sentences out here or there, and Hans-Peter will send the recording to you so you can listen to it again. So one thing we learned is that we should look for answers from all perspectives, not just, you know, like a linear one-pointed something, but questions from everywhere we see, everything we meet. And I know that you said once, you have a question, and how, if I have a question about something and I would just start thinking, how would Hans-Peter answer it? This is already, you know, something totally different in my head, just thinking this way. So this is a little something we learned today on an example, what I just said. And we also learned that we should not make plans, but we should create spaces. So I think that's very, very beautiful to remember all the time, the rest of our life. And I give you a riddle now for before we leave. Something you also said, and you don't have to answer that now, Soundarya. It's for us all, and it goes like that. What color number 4 smells like? I say it again. The rest of the day you can think about it. What color number 4 smells like? What does this has to do with architecture or with our lives? So I want to thank you very, very much. And I have one personal question. Do you know already what you want to do? You want to give your work contributed to our will, or go outside our will, or you're in the process of thinking about it? You don't.
Thinking, processing, but I do see myself maybe in Orwell for a bit to work and engage with people here as well, because I've been out for quite some time, so I want to experience home for a bit. Home as in the people in Orville also. But I do see myself going elsewhere, not sure, to further study, because I enjoy this process, not because of how formal it is or anything, but because of the people I meet and the exposure of a different environment. So I do see myself wanting to travel a bit and learn from other places and maybe other institutions before I come back to Orville and actually sort of set up and start contributing. That's the near future I can see.
Yes, very
Come to Europe. Come to Europe and bring your wisdom.
Definitely.
So, yeah, yes, we are in contact with her. We never leave her. I know that. So, the last word I want to give also from you, Soundarya, you talked about the generation gap, and then you said, together we can make it. So I would like to close with these words, together we can make it. There is no generation gap. We have to do it together, and we will do it together. So thank you for being with us. And we stay in contact, and Hans-Peter sent the recording out, and maybe I can show to some of us how you danced. I still have the beautiful film from you where we have a total different picture about her. So
let's see if people recognize me.
And I see Gunnar sneaking in there. Okay.
Hello.
So thank you for being with us all, and
Thank you.
we'll see you again soon.
Thank you
and
so much.
We contact via Skype and talk a little bit about it. Okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
So now we let you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so
for
much.
being
Thank you,
with us.
everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye bye. Thank you. It was so inspiring. Thank you. Thank you. Ja, hallo. Schön, dass ihr bei unserer Veranstaltung dabei wart, entweder live oder jetzt in der Aufzeichnung. Und wir hoffen sehr, dass euch unsere Veranstaltung gut gefallen hat. Und ich möchte gerne noch etwas anhängen. Und zwar haben wir so wunderbare Feedbacks bekommen von unserem Alea-Event, dass ich so ein, zwei Sachen gerne anführen möchte. Erstmal hat Soundarya sich sehr, sehr bedankt, dass ihr zugehört habt und dass sie erfahren hat, dass es gar keine Altersbeschränkungen gibt und sie so tief bewegt war und tief glücklich war, dass wir alle so zugehört haben und so empfänglich waren für das, was sie aus ihrem Leben mit uns geteilt hat. Das ist das eine, und die anderen Feedbacks, die ich gerne geben möchte, sind von den Teilnehmern, die also zugehört haben. Unter anderem wurde gesagt, da ist so viel Hoffnung, wenn diese jungen Menschen mit dieser Dynamik und in dieser Ausrichtung das Leben kreieren. So, das war das eine Wunderbare. Das andere hatte damit zu tun, dass so durch die Erfahrung, dass so junge Menschen diesen neuen Weg gehen, dass so alles das, was die ältere Generation vorbereitet hat vielleicht oder den Samen gelegt hat, dass das so am Aufgehen ist, und das ist wiederum für die ältere Generation so wunderbar, diese jungen Menschen zu sehen. Also vielen, vielen Dank. Jetzt noch etwas zu Alea. Ich wurde vor 1-2 Tagen gefragt, ja, was denn überhaupt Alea ist, und wir sind ja nicht jemand, der Produkte anbietet oder eine Ideologie vertritt oder ein Riesengebäude hat, wo etwas drin stattfindet. Aber was wir haben und was wir gerne anbieten wollen, ist dieser, wie in dieser Veranstaltung mit Soundarya gesagt wurde, diesen Space. Das heißt, dieser Space, in dem dieses Andersleben stattfinden kann. Alea steht für anders leben, entwickeln und aufbauen. Und ich bin davon überzeugt, dass die Veranstaltung, die wir jetzt am letzten Sonntag hatten, ein sehr, sehr schönes Beispiel ist, was in Alea stattfindet. Und wir laden euch herzlichst ein, an den Veranstaltungen, die in den kommenden Wochen und Monaten fortgeführt werden, dabei zu sein. In diesem Sinne, lasst uns eine wunderbare Zukunft bauen.